Good morning, PTN's Daily Show. Happy Friday. My name is Alan. If you watched or listened yesterday, you might be thinking, dang, we just heard from Alan. So we try not to do this. We try not to be on here back-to-back too many times. But Zach was supposed to be up, and what you don't know about Zach is that Zach does not understand how time zones work. So Zach is out on the West Coast, and no doubt he is thinking he is going to go live at 8:30, but that would be 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern. So Zach will not be joining you today. I will be joining you. So my name is Alan, faculty member of the Fitness Athlete Division, COO for ICE, and today is the best day of the week. It is Fitness Athlete Friday. I won't bore you with any of the details of courses or anything. I just talked about that yesterday, so if you want to know what courses are coming out, what's going on with ICE, just go back to yesterday's episode. So today we are going to talk about aerobic capacity. So what are we talking about with aerobic capacity? We kind of say that term. We learned that term, some of us in PT school, as a way to just talk about like general cardio exercise for patients. You learn to write that in your notes because maybe insurance would pay for a unit of Therax of aerobic capacity versus just writing down cardio, right? But when we're actually talking about aerobic capacity, when we're talking about objective aerobic capacity, what are we talking about? We're talking about your ability to be efficient in the different energy systems, in your ATP-PC, your quick energy system, your anaerobic glycolysis, your medium duration system, and your aerobic system overall, your kind of all fibers oxidative capacity. So when we talk about aerobic capacity, we're talking about building your engine in a lot of different ways, short power bursts, medium effort things like a 500-meter row or an 800-meter run, and then long duration events that a lot of us are familiar with, a 1-mile run, a 2-mile run, a 5-mile run, a long bike, a long row, a long swim, that sort of stuff. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about aerobic capacity. When we talk about it in the context of CrossFit, it's a really big thing in CrossFit now. A lot of the CrossFit Games athletes are on aerobic capacity training. There's actually a company called Aerobic Capacity that is run by Chris Henshaw, who is a veteran elite marathoner, triathlete, ultra marathoner, who runs that program and who has a specialty course within CrossFit also called Aerobic Capacity. So a lot of the Games athletes over the past couple of years have attributed their success to working with Chris Henshaw in developing the aerobic capacity. What do we care about that? How can we use that, and how does it fit into the scheme of kind of general CrossFit programming? The first thing I'll say is that this is naturally built into any moderate quality CrossFit programming, right? Classic CrossFit is GPP programming, general physical preparedness. Aerobic capacity work is built into that. When the workout that you skip is five intervals of 500-meter rows, that's an aerobic capacity day. If you look on the workout on your workout app or it's written out a week ahead on the board and you go, that looks like it's going to suck, I'm not going to come on Thursday, I don't want to do rowing intervals, you are skipping the natural aerobic capacity work that occurs within CrossFit programming. So any good CrossFit programming is going to have aerobic capacity work built into it, right? Rowing intervals, medium duration runs, 800-meter repeats, run a mile for time, run a 5K for time. All of that stuff is going to be assessed and worked into CrossFit style programming, and just cycling barbells and gymnastics work that we do in CrossFit as part of regular CrossFit training is also working your aerobic capacity systems and different efforts, right? A 1-rep max is really challenging your ATP-PC. Something like a workout that has 5 or 10 cals on the assault bike where you're really ramping it up quickly, that's working your ATP-PC. A workout that has maybe a weird rowing interval, like a 700-meter row, is working your glycolytic system. So all that stuff is built into it. And what I often tell most athletes here who say, I gotta build my engine, I gotta get my aerobic capacity up, the first thing I say is, no, you need to come to CrossFit 6 days a week. You need to come every day. You need to not cherry pick the workouts. If you like to lift heavy, that's great. But if you like to lift heavy and skip the aerobic capacity days, you need to come to the aerobic capacity days more than anything else. If you are the strongest person in the gym, but you're the last person back in the door when there's running, you need the aerobic capacity work. So the first thing I say is, show me that you can come to CrossFit 4 to 6 days a week, and you're not cherry picking the workouts. You're coming on the days that can fit your schedule. And if the CrossFit programming is good, if it's constantly varied, it's going to have aerobic capacity days built in. You don't need any other supplemental aerobic capacity stuff. Once we've established that, once an athlete is training GPP a couple days a week, then we can look into supplemental aerobic capacity programming. So I do supplemental aerobic capacity programming from Aerobic Capacity from Chris Hinshaw's program. So full disclosure, I'm not getting paid to tell you that or anything or get you to go buy it, but I think it's worth it for me. I am not good at short distance speed, and I'm not good at kind of middle distance endurance. My worst event would be sprint repeats or 800-meter repeats. That would be something I would not like to see. I'd much rather go out for a 5-mile run or do some long, grindy hero WOD than anything else. So I do subscribe to supplemental aerobic capacity programming. You do some baseline tests through Chris's app, and then you get 2 supplemental workouts a week through the app, and it's what you need to get better at. You put in your times, and he tells you what you need to get better at, and he programs the workouts for you, and it gets pushed to the app. If we don't want to pay for that, if we don't want to do that for ourselves or for our athletes, we can just use good old-fashioned math and some science to understand what we're looking at when we're talking about aerobic capacity. So the first thing is you need to establish some baselines. You need to assess, right? That's true of anything in physical therapy or health care. You can't make any changes or make any programming if you don't have a baseline. So how do we get a baseline? We need to know short distance speed events. We need to know middle distance endurance events, and we have to know those times. So you need to know those times about yourself or about your athlete before you can move forward. So I track it in a spreadsheet. You don't need to do the math. There's an online calculator for you. But to give you some examples, if you want to start getting into this, see where you fall yourself, see where your athletes fall. You need to know something like a 500-meter row and a 2,000-meter row time, right? You need to know a short ATP-PC glycolytic event, and you need to know a long all-fiber oxidative event. You've got to know both those times. So you need to have those times to establish a baseline. So you can do that with a 500-meter row and a 2,000-meter row. You can do that with a 400-meter run and an 800 or 1,600-meter run. You can do that with swims, same thing, short, fast, long, medium, long, slow event. You can do that with assault bike. I'll talk about some assault bike tests in a minute, but you need to know those times before you can start to crunch any of the numbers. Once you have those times, I'm going to try and share my screen on Facebook Live. Nope, I can't do that once I've gone live. So I can't share my screen. But so what I'm looking at right now is a spreadsheet with my own times. My 500-meter row time is 1:33. My 2,000-meter row time is 7:16. Once I have those 2 times, I can go to this website. I'll talk it out. It's called runningahead.com/tools/calculators/race. That's long as hell. I'll post that in the comments on the Facebook Live video once I'm done. And what that gives you is this online calculator where it's going to ask you for those 2 distances we just talked about. So if I put in, and it doesn't care what the sport is, so I can put in 500 meters for my row time, I can put in 2,000 meters for my second row time, I can put in the times, and what that's going to give me is a coefficient. And what that coefficient is called fatigue fall-off factor, fatigue fall-off factor. And that's what we're really looking at when we start to program aerobic capacity work. So whether you're working with a CrossFitter, a runner, a swimmer, a rower, a biker, it doesn't matter. Sorry, a cyclist. You don't want to say biker, a cyclist. It doesn't matter what their jam is. Once you have those times and you have that fatigue fall-off factor, you can really start to dig into what systems they need to work better on. So my times, that 1:33 500-meter row, that 7:16 2,000-meter row, if I throw those in really quick here, sorry, typing, very boring to listen to, and I want to predict my time for an event. Say I want to predict my time for a 5,000-meter row. It will now give me a number. So you can't see it, but what it's just plugged out for me is a coefficient of 11.4%. So what does that mean? It means that as I move from a 5,000-meter row to a 2,000-meter row, my time slows by 11.4%. That is my fatigue fall-off factor, and that's the number we care about. That's the math we care about getting to. Once you have that, you can start to learn a lot about your athletes, a lot about your athletes' time, and how to program aerobic capacity for them and what they need to work on. So the general rule of thumb is that if that percentage is less than 21%, that athlete needs to work on speed. If that coefficient is greater than 21%, that athlete needs to work on endurance. So my fatigue fall-off factor in that equation with the 500 and the 2,000 meter row is 11.4%. That's under 21%. I need to work on speed. I already know that, right? That's I can go forever, but I can't go fast, right? I can't ramp up and really bury it, especially over short distance and pick up speed. So I already knew that, but the math supports that now, right? So my workouts, my aerobic capacity workouts should consist of speed, and that's what they are. They're shorter intervals. They're 300s, 600s, kind of sometimes weird glycolytic stuff, 700, 800 meter repeats with some rest to recover, but they're shorter distances and they're focused on speed. Now, if I was above 21%, I would need to work on endurance. I would need to work on just going longer, really long events, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 meters for time, for a decent speed, right? Not putzing along, but just to build that endurance. So the whole goal with aerobic capacity is to get those baseline tests, crunch the math, get that fatigue fall-off factor, and then decide if that athlete needs speed training or endurance training. And so what we see with a lot of our athletes is they're training the opposite, right? So for the longest time, I was training my wheelhouse, right? I'm an endurance athlete. When I went to Chris Henshaw's course down at CrossFit Mayhem back in the last fall, we learned about this math and crunched the numbers, and I thought, oh man, I'm an endurance athlete, and all I do is endurance athlete stuff. All I do is really long, slow, grindy stuff. I'm trained to my strengths. It's no wonder why I can't go fast. It's no wonder why I get lapped when we do 400 meter repeats, or when there's a short, fast, intense metcon or exercise here at the gym. It's no wonder why I'm training the wrong system, right? I'm training the endurance system. I need to be training the speed system. So you'll find sometimes that your athletes are training the wrong thing. They need to get faster, not go longer over time, and vice versa. They need to go longer over time and not go faster. You'll meet athletes that say, I'm a bad runner, I'm bad at running, and you'll get this data and you'll crunch this math and you'll say, you need to work on endurance. Like you have an 80-second 400, and over the past 5 years you've only shaved a couple seconds off of it. You're nearing your ceiling for speed. Your problem is that your fatigue fall-off factor is huge for endurance. You need to get better at endurance. You need to do longer events. You need to do like 1,000-meter repeats, run 1,000 meters, rest 5 to 7 minutes, and do that. You need to do longer events on the rower. You need to do longer events on the bike. You need to get better at endurance. So once we have that fatigue fall-off factor, we can find out where that athlete falls on the endurance or speed training kind of continuum and start to program stuff for them. And what we often find is that they're doing the wrong thing. They know they need to get their cardio better, quote unquote, and they're often training the wrong system. So that will help you better help them start to train the right system so that they see improvements. They either start to shave some time off their events and get faster, or they start to reduce their fatigue fall off and they're able to hang on in a workout longer. They're not dying in the middle of a metcon, sometimes quitting in the middle of a metcon because they just don't have that endurance on board. So knowing that math, and again, I'll post that calculator, is good, but you need those baselines. You need to take some time with that athlete and run them through those tests. When people message me, I say, I can't help you until I have this data. If you're not willing to go to the track and run 400s or come into the gym early and find your 500 time, your 2,000 meter row time, that sort of stuff, then I can't help you at all, right? I can't do anything without data. I don't know how your fatigue fall off is. I don't know if you need to work on endurance or speed. The final thing I'll say is that there are some really good tests that can be done both with athletes but also with patients in the clinic, traditional clinical patients with the assault bike. So if you don't know what an assault bike is, you might have heard it called an Airdyne, Schwinn Airdyne, just a big fan bike with arms and legs, right? Kind of a full body thing. The harder you ramp that bike up, the more resistance it throws back at you. So that's a really good way to test aerobic capacity across a number of different systems with both athletes and patients. It's cheaper, it's full body, it's often something most people can do, right? Most people can ride a bicycle. Some people just can't run, right? For whatever reason, due to injury or something going on, they might not be able to run, they might not be able to swim, they might not be able to row. Most people can row. But having that assault bike is the name brand, or the Airdyne or Airbike or whatever you have, is good because you can start to do some really good tests on there. I'll go over a couple of those right now before we wrap up. Some common tests to just test glycolysis hey, get on the assault bike, bike 45 seconds as hard as you can, as many calories as you can chew through in 45 seconds, and let's see where you're at. We can do an advanced glycolysis test. We can do 5 rounds of that same test. So as many calories as you can give me in 45 seconds, rest 4 minutes, let's do that 5 times. So now we're not just checking anaerobic power, but we're also testing your resistance to fatigue over time. We can check your lactate threshold on the assault bike. Hey, get on there, 10 minutes, as many calories as you can chew through. Don't redline and die, but don't sandbag it either, right? Bike 10 minutes for max calories. Let's look at your lactate threshold, your max sustainable intensity. We can look at your aerobic system in general, your all fibers oxidative capacity. Same thing, but let's go 30 minutes. Get on the bike, chew through 30 minutes, max calories. Same thing. Don't ramp up and redline and die and just goof off on the bike for the rest of the time. But give me some good sustainable intensity, and let's look at your overall aerobic capacity, especially if you're fast twitch muscle fibers and those big motor units. We can look at aerobic power on the assault bike. Bike 20 rounds for max calories with a 1-to-1 work-rest ratio, so not a lot of rest. So ramp it up, rest, ramp it up, rest, 20 rounds. How many calories can you do? And then just overall, I like this one. I just did this one last week, kind of just the self-regulation test, as it's called. 10 rounds of 25 calories or 18 calories for ladies, 1 minute rest in between, 25-minute time cap. I did that last week. I was challenged to do that by one of the aerobic capacity ambassadors, and I did it in 22 minutes, but it was rough. So there are a lot of different cool tests we can do on the assault bike to look at the systems just like we talked about. And again, we can get times for those, calories for those, and start to fatigue fall-off factor, and like with running and with throwing, start to program endurance or speed for athletes. So if you're working with runners, if you're working with cyclists, triathletes, you can really start to get them dialed in on what they need to work and start to actually give them really, really solid programming. So, yesterday on here we talked about salary and what are you worth and different ways to supplement your income, and that's one of the ways you can do it, right? You can get dialed in on assessing aerobic capacity, get folks dialed into what system they need to work on and start to give them programming, and that's a great little side hustle you can have going on that's can be done from your computer, right? It's just all data. You don't have to be there. You just tell them, hey, do this test, tell me your number, crunch the data, give them some programming, and just repeat, right? So that's something that can be done really easy from the computer. So I hope that helps when we're talking about aerobic capacity. Just understand that most folks that just want to be in shape, that are already going to CrossFit, already going to the gym, doing some sort of cross training, they're already getting aerobic capacity if they're not cherry picking workouts and they're going to CrossFit a couple of days a week, right? So they're already getting it. They might not need to supplement it. But if you are working with those folks who just want to get better, somebody like me who just wants to be better at everything all the time, who's obsessed with this stuff, then you can start to really get dialed in by using these baseline tests. If you're on Instagram right now, you're watching or you're listening on the podcast, go over to our Facebook page and check the video from today. I'll have the calculator for the different times, and then I'll have the link to the different tests you can do with the assault bike and the Airdyne on the Facebook post for you to click on and check out. So hope that helps. Hope you all have a fantastic Friday. We are light duty here. Mitch is out in Vancouver. Zach is on the West Coast in Portland, but we're looking forward to having a great weekend of courses with you all, a couple online courses starting Sunday night, so looking forward to that. Hope you have a fantastic Friday. We'll see you all next time. If you didn't catch it, Mitch and I just launched our business yesterday, so check out healthhq.fit. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook at healthhq as we get the next phase of our clinical practice here in Michigan. See you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.